What's up? You're listening to Metal Verbalizers, and I am Johan. And today I will verbalize the band Cornucopia. Cornucopia is a death/thrash metal band from Kungsbacka, Sweden, and they were founded in the summer of 2021. Personally, I would also like to add that I think they have a pretty black and thrash sound as well as the kind of death thrash thing. Because something that I definitely thought was kind of more of a black metal type thing was the vocals. In my opinion, I think the vocals are perhaps closer a more black metal style thing rather than a, kind of type of death metal style growl or a more harsher type of thrash metal sound. I think Cornucopia would perhaps more properly be described, at least the vocals specifically, as more of a black metal, black and thrash type of thing. But I don't know, it's more kind of something that I noticed and kind of thought when I personally listened to Cornucopia's music. But again, that's my opinion. Cornucopia doesn't have that many releases yet. But they do have two demos that they have been able to release, both of them in 2021. One of them are the self-titled demo, titled Cornucopia, of course, and also the other demo titled Met Your End. And something that I kind of reacted to immediately when I looked up Cornucopia was a few other song names that really kind of stayed with me in a way. And one of these song names are Milky Way. And the kind of reason why that song name specifically stuck with me is that it doesn't really sound that, death or thrash sounding to me. It kind of sounds more something that a more classic rock style band would release. And that kind of sounds more like a classic rock type thing. But the fact that it feels like it would fit that type of music more just makes it fit even better for a band like Cornucopia, in my opinion. Because it's like, when you hear a song like Milky Way, you don't really expect like heavy and fast death, black and thrash style music. So I think that's amazing. It's one of these things that I've usually talked about that before a lot. That one of like major parts of making music and all this is that it kind of have to have something kind of like interesting in there, something unexpected, some like surprise in a way. And I think the kind of like having a song titled Milky Way kind of is something like that. So that's something that I believe that Cornucopia has done very well with that. And deciding to have a song name like that was a very good decision, in my personal opinion. But also, like, another example of a song name by Cornucopia that I think is amazing is Tortured by a Witch. I mean, right away you'd probably notice that it definitely sounds more like, classic death thrash sounding, like Tortured by a Witch. And I think something that kind of makes that cool as well is that I like that mix in a way, like having a song called Milky Way and then a song called Tortured by a Witch. It's a very nice balance, and a very nice mix of things. And it's like a lot of bands, like death or thrash metal bands, usually have those kind of names, and and they usually have following a kind of pattern with like a lot of gore, horror themed stuff, and like names that sound really brutal. But again, something that I think really makes Cornucopia stand out and kind of make something that they've made very, very well is that they have like a kind of more mix, which in my opinion makes you kind of think right away that it looks more interesting, kind of wanna listen to it even more because of that. So again, I think this kind of like mix and song names that Cornucopia has is a very, very nice thing. Also, that I said before that the band was founded in the summer of 2021. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting things that you can kind of take from that. And one of the things in general is that it's nice to see that this kind of music still lives on, you know? It's like the kind of heavier, this type of metal basically, the more black and thrash, death style things, kind of started sometime in like the early 80s. At least that's what you kind of like generally say, right? With bands like Sodom, Bathory, stuff like that. Maybe even Venom, that was perhaps even earlier. But you know that kind of time, you know, that era when this like harsher stuff kind of started to evolve, you know. But to see a band like Cornucopia being founded even today, like in 2021, kind of shows that this type of music really still lives in a way, and that it's still going strong, you know. And for someone like me who is a very big fan of this kind of music, it's very refreshing in a way. Kind of like to really see that it still works, it's still relevant. And you know, like Cornucopia is a great example of that, in my opinion. I was actually in contact with Cornucopia before recording this episode about them, and I think there was perhaps I think there were mainly two things when I asked them that they wanted me to mention during this episode, which is exactly what I intend to do now. First thing that they mentioned to me was regarding an upcoming album. They are going to record and release an upcoming album very soon. And I think I read that somewhere that they intend to have it released sometime early this year, early 2022. So that's something that I personally look forward to a lot, and like comparing the two demos and with the songs that they have currently released in consideration, it's going to be very, very interesting, in my opinion, to hear this upcoming album by them. And I would also like to encourage you to keep your eyes open for that, and ears open, obviously. Yeah, I definitely encourage you to also check that album out and make sure to know when that album will be released and to check that out, because I believe that it could be something very, very good. There was, however, another thing that they wanted me to mention, and that is an upcoming show that they have, that they will play, and that is at Fredagsmangel at the 22nd April. And I guess I could kind of go through it a little bit. For you who listen to this that might not know what Fredagsmangel is, perhaps mainly international listeners might not know what that is, and personally I haven't been to it, but the way I have understood it is that it's basically a Swedish metal club located in Jakobsberg that specifies in the more extreme, harsher genres like death metal, thrash metal, and black metal. And that they are holding shows and concert with bands of those genres every Friday. Thus the name Fredagsmangel, and fredag is basically Friday, for those who might not know that listen to this. So that's I believe their kind of concept, to have those kind of shows every Friday. And definitely, like, I think that's kind of a nice concept, and that they are going to have a show with Cornucopia shows that they are kind of specifying in the more underground, more basically more underground bands, and I think that's something very, very great, and I guess that's not completely different from what we Verbalizers are doing with this podcast, specifying in the kind of underground to support them, which kind of brings me to the part that I absolutely encourage you to show up to this show. So if you can, for all of you out there who can, I would like to heavily encourage you to show up to Fredagsmangel at 22nd April and support Cornucopia and be there for their show, because I think that could be really, really great. And I believe with that being said, I think it's time to wrap things up here. I appreciate you listening, and if you like this episode, make sure to follow us on Metal Verbalizers, and we will give you more tips like this. If this episode results in you checking this band out, please tag us and let them know that we send you to them. We would absolutely appreciate it, and I'm sure that the band would also appreciate you checking them out. And well, we'll be back to you soon with another verbalization.